Did you know that Vidler's wasn't always East Aurora's only 5 and 10? Hi folks, Robert Lowell Goller here, and thank you for joining me for our weekly chats about local history on Main Street in front of Vidler's. Now, Vidler's has been in the spotlight, especially this past week, having been the star of a movie, a Hallmark Christmas movie. Quite an interesting and fun project to be a part of, I must say. East Aurora's Main Street and Vidler's, if you have not seen the movie yet, has a starring role in a holiday touchdown, a Bill's love story. So I thought it would be a great week to talk about the history of Vidler's, which I talk quite a bit about in my new book, Who Put the East in East Aurora and Other Chronicles of Our Past. It's actually another chronicle of our past. I went in through the newspaper articles about shopping in East Aurora, and I highlight a big section of the book is about shopping and how we changed our shopping habits quite drastically over the past 50 years. And that includes 5 and 10s. Now, Vidler's, as many of you know the story behind Vidler's, Robert Vidler Sr., who would be Ed Vidler, the Vidler on the Roof's father, opened the store called The Fair in 1930. And he opened it in this little section of the building right here. It was just this little section, and it was a 5 and dime. And 5 and dimes were popular in the late 1800s into the 20th century. The Knox family of East Aurora fame actually opened a series of 5 and dimes, made a lot of money, and then they merged with their cousins, the Woolworths. Interestingly, they never opened a 5 and dime in East Aurora. But Mr. Vidler had this idea to open the Fair. He called it the Fair, allegedly, because he didn't want to associate his name with it until he knew it was going to be a success, opening at the beginning of the Great Depression. Today we see Vidler's, you think of East Aurora and a 5 and 10, you think of Vidler's, right? The red and white awning, but the store looked drastically different back then. The red and white awning is actually a modern marketing campaign for Vidler's, which I'll talk about in a second. But Vidler's wasn't the only 5 and dime. In fact, very shortly after Mr. Vidler opened his store, just down the street this way, Mr. Eastman opened Eastman's 5 and 10. That store went through quite a couple owners. Paul Day bought it later and changed the name of the store to Paul Day 5 and 10. And then eventually that store was sold out to the Ben Franklin chain of 5 and dimes. But that store was just a block away from Vidler's and was stiff competition. Both stores had toy departments and they competed with each other. And what made it even more interesting is in the mix of all that competition, Mr. Gannon opened Gannon's 5 and 10, not a block away, literally 2 buildings away in the Rocha Lynn building today, right there behind me. So you had Vidler's here, and Rocha Lynn, that building was the Gannon 5 and dime. And so there were 3 5 and 10s on East Aurora's Main Street at the exact same time, within 2 blocks of each other. So I highlight a lot about that competition here in Who Put the East in East Aurora, talk about the timeline and all the things that went into that interesting 5 and dime rivalry. Now, what ended up happening is our shopping habits changed, and 5 and 10s went out of favor in the late 1950s into the 1960s. And what happened is the Plaza opened, the Aurora Village Shopping Center opened at the west end of town. Where it is today, and a store called W.T. Grant. You might remember it if you've been around a bit. It was a large department store and a chain department store, big box department store for 1959. And it's no coincidence that a few years after the Plaza opened, or as the Plaza was opening, the 5 and dimes went out of business. In addition to that, we had a store, a variety store, a department store just down the street here called Seaman Hood and Maury. They had sold out to a Buffalo department store and actually had a very large expansion in 1959. So all those things put together put those small little 5 and 10s out of business, and they just couldn't compete with the big box department stores that were coming into East Aurora. It was, and people wanted to go to a place that had a more variety and a much larger selection that these little 5 and dimes could not compete with. Now, I say 5 and dimes went out of business, but Vidler's did not. How come Vidler's is still here? The star of a a Hallmark holiday movie, Christmas movie, right here on Main Street in East Aurora. Well, it was tough. You actually talked to some members of the family, and in my research, I was reading articles about they almost thought they couldn't make it. But what they did is they hired a local artist, Rick Jennings, to rebrand the store. So behind us here is that brand of the red and white awning was all a marketing campaign to become a nostalgic 5 and dime. And that's what they succeeded at. As you can tell, people are coming to get that nostalgic shopping experience. And they did a lot of marketing things, those funny commercials that Bob and Ed Vidler, brothers Bob and Ed Vidler, were in, those YouTube videos that continue to today, all that marketing coming to a nostalgic Main Street in East Aurora. Vidler's was behind that. They did not give up. And so that is why, while other 5 and dimes went out of business, Vidler's is still here. I talk a lot about it here in the book. So if you want to know more, please feel free to pick up my book at Vidler's. It's on sale at Vidler's. No coincidence there. They are featured in the book, and I do appreciate Vidler's for supporting my books and my book project. An interesting thing I found out about Vidler's is they're actually at the location of, they weren't the first 5 and dime in East Aurora. There was I discovered while doing research into 5&10s that in 1880, so 50 years before Vidler's opened its doors, just in that small little section there, a 5 and 10 opened in what they called the Hoyt Block. And I looked up where that was, and it's that building. So a 5 and 10 was opened in 1880 in the same location that Vidler's is today. And of course, you know, Vidler started in this small little section right here, but today it's expanded all the way down. We have Vidler on the roof, but they survived the competition, including from Gannon's 5 and 10, which was just 2 buildings down. So to learn more about Vidler's and its journey from a modest a little 5 and dime back in 1930 to a star of a Hallmark Christmas movie, pick up the book. I'd love to have you read more about it and about other wonderful things in the past of our little community here, our Hallmark community here on Main Street of East Aurora.